man, you need to buy yourself a gun. What? Gun? Oh, what? Like a handgun. For personal protection. If somebody tries to mug you. What? What if your government tries to throw you in a camp? What? You're gonna want a shotgun. Oh. What? An automatic rifle. And a lot of ammo. Gun?
We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They'll burn you out like a Waco. They'll stick your ass in a camp. Jack booty cops in riot gear, gonna kick your ass and laugh. The revolution is on its way. Better lock and load your AK. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They gave your money to the banksters. They stole your pension funds. It's time that we took to the streets. It's time we had our turn. A revolution is on its way, and the founding fathers would say, buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. You got a riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat. You got a riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat. You got a drag 'em through.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Tuesday. I am live. This is PrimerTime on UCY.tv. My name is Michael, and I am become Death, the Destroyer of Worlds. Nick is out on special assignment. I believe he is at Operation Home Depot right now, preparing for the battle of painting a rental house and getting out of it and moving. So he's got stuff he's got to do tonight, and if he didn't, his wife would hit him in the head with a stick or something far worse than that. So best of luck to you, my brother. Have fun late into the night doing housework and getting yelled at. It is the 19th. It's kind of an interesting day in American history. Today is the anniversary of Waco, which is referenced in the theme song of this fine and very unique program on the one and only UCY.tv. Our theme song is Buy a Gun by a band called the Gitmos. And we don't give them enough credit because we totally stole that song for our theme song. And but I truly agree with the message. I mean, above and beyond Buy a Gun, but I mean, it does reference Waco, and that was kind of a waking up point for a lot of Americans. And kind of relevant to today's society, you know. Today, the 19th, is also the anniversary of Waco, of Randy Weaver's death in Idaho at the hands of the ATF, and Oklahoma City. So we're kind of into the stressful time of the year history-wise, and regarding I'd say the way our society is headed in. A lot of changes to the American gun culture came about because of these dates. You know, right after Oklahoma City, there was the original push for the Patriot Act, and I mean, that was ready to go before Oklahoma City. You know, that's an event that's got a lot of questions around it. Now, I'm by no means any expert in it, but I mean, I do remember it happening and have read some about it. And man, there's a lot of questions to be asked about Oklahoma City. There's a lot of questions to be asked about the entire Waco incident and the culpability of the government and ATF and just the whole way the entire thing went down. And then Randy Weaver his family was murdered. So I don't know. And there's always all these events, while being bad for the American people, also ended up being a call for gun control. And we've got that going on still today. Tonight is another primary night. It's New York, and I didn't get a chance to check right before I went on, but looks like it's going to be Hillary and Trump taking New York. And Hillary's she's not a friend of gun owners. I got a story. It's at atr.org, and Hillary totally endorses a $1,000 per gun sales tax, kind of like what the Marianas Islands just enacted once after they got the legal right as American citizens to carry firearms. They immediately enacted a $1,000 per firearm tax, and Hillary Clinton is completely endorsing this and calling for further steps in that. I've heard several various scenarios that the way that goes down, and some of them involve a tax much greater than $1,000. I've read taxes of $2,500 for every so-called assault rifle, air quotes around that, and that's really similar to the 1934 Gun Registration Act, and the 1934 Gun Control Act, where short-barreled shotguns were outlawed, and full automatics they weren't outlawed; they were restricted, and you had to get taxes. But at that time, the tax was $200, and that was a prohibitive sum back in the day, just to have something that was short or could eat a lot of ammo real fast. So to me, it seems very, very similar to that. Let's see here. It says the administration of Ralph DLG Torres defended the new gun control laws Friday that could be a role model for the other U.S. states and jurisdictions seemingly facing uncontrolled and continual gun violence. The administration was responding to queries regarding its position in recent reports that a legal challenge to the new law, Public Law 1942, was likely particular over a provision that assesses a $1,000 excise tax on pistols. So we've got other cities and other jurisdictions doing that. Seattle has a gun tax. It's $25 per tax. And they've also got a 2 to 5 cent tax on each bullet, depending on the caliber. That's causing gun dealers to close, and I don't think those taxes are legal. Cook County has an ammunition tax, 1 to 5 cents, depending on caliber again. So they've also got a $25 gun tax. So it's a never-ending assault on the Second Amendment and your right to own a firearm. Both candidates on the Democratic side are really screaming about that. The recent argument has been whether or not the firearms companies, manufacturers, and dealers are going to be able to be sued, taken to court for actions committed with the products. Now, if we can agree that these are currently legal products that are sold to people who already have to pass a background check, if you buy a brand new gun, there's no gun show loophole or anything. You have to fill out a form 4473, and that gets called in, and there is the background check done. That's on every gun. Doesn't matter if you buy it at a gun show or at a gun shop. If you buy a brand new gun, that's the way it happens. And they'd like to be able to sue, especially the Sandy Hook families right now. There's a big push on that. I think really it's the name Sandy Hook now has become a tearjerker and something to play with the emotions. But lawsuit has gone through that allows them to sue Remington, which is a parent company of Bushmaster, within Freedom Group, that large collective of Satan that owns a bunch of firearms companies. And they've got the go ahead and sue. And Mark Barden, whose 7-year-old son was at Newtown, says they deserve their day in court. And I really don't see how this went through. I don't see how any attorney had the gall to push this through. I mean, a very simple analogy would be able to say, like, you sued Ford because somebody got drunk and, ran into you. That has nothing to do with Ford. It has nothing to do with the alcohol company. This is the person's actions. And I don't believe that the argument even carries any water, because in at least in regards to the Sandy Hook thing, the kid murdered his parent and stole the firearm. And that's not the firearm company's fault. I mean, that's two crimes outside of the tragedy that had to occur before anything did. It's not the gun company's fault. And they like to say that it has to do with this lawsuit is more to do with the marketing aspect, that the firearms companies are marketing these weapons to children because they end up in video games. And I think that's incorrect. Licensing for items like that by firearms companies is really frowned on. They usually don't do it. And I think if you take a look at a lot of games, there's firearms that you could say that is an AR-15. And we will go with the AR-15 because that's the weapon in question at this time. But the AR-15 is almost a generic design now. And every game uses it, and they call it several different names. I mean, I'm not a video game guy, but I know enough about them that every game has some sort of AR-15 in it, and it's got some different name. And that's really not any kind of marketing on the manufacturer's part. That's like the game designer. That's whoever built the game and decided that they needed an AR-15 for this level that you got to kill the bad guy in. So there's a lot of problems with the flow of logic, but that's kind of to be expected with anything having to do with firearms legislation. Increasing with the idiocy in firearms legislation, California continues to take the lead. A bill on the 19th just went in front of California State Assembly, Bill 2459. Let's see. If it passed, it would shackle the FFLs with 4 new requirements, the totality of which could simply force gun stores to close their doors. And the 4 proposed requirements are a prohibition on licensee business premises being on residential property. That means no more at-home dealers. They like to give that a term of kitchen table dealers. That's kind of not accurate. Current ATF regulations actually call for you have to have a separate business area. It could be at your residence. The separate business area has to be secured and up to what the ATF standards call for. So it's not just like somebody brings you into your kitchen and hauls out a box full of guns. So we got that issue. All right. The second proposed requirement is a clear statement that localities may impose more restrictive requirements on licensees than those imposed by state law. So I guess at this point you have to say that you're going to cede, I guess, the chain of command legally, how our system works. You're going to say that the lower guys can step out of line and overrule what the state says. I don't believe that's how that is supposed to work. The third proposed requirement is a requirement that licensees maintain full color video surveillance that is of sufficient quality to provide for facial recognition and records all firearms transactions on the premises, all locations where firearms and ammunition are stored, the immediate exterior of the licensed premises, all parking facilities owned by the licensee. The video equipment would be required to run during all business hours and begin to set recording when motion is detected at all other times. The licensee would have to certify having compliant video equipment at least yearly and make any needed to repairs to the equipment within 15 days of any damage. The footage would need to be saved on the premises for at least 5 years, but that could be extended if the footage may be a part of law enforcement investigations. Licensees would also be required to post a prominent sign notifying customers they are being recorded. I don't think there's any other business in the world that requires 24-hour video recording and storage of that data. There's not one other business I can think of in the world that actually requires that. Wow. Okay. And the fourth insanity would be all licensees would be required to have a liability policy of a minimum $1 million per incident to cover liability arising from theft, sale, lease, transfer, or offering of sale, lease, or transfer of a firearm or ammunition, or any other operation of the business and business premises. So $1 million per incident. I don't even know what that would break down to. Usually retail gun shops don't operate on a huge margin. I guess further away from the city and, for convenience that you pick the prospect of convenience, you'll pay more for a firearm, but usually in an area that's highly populated, like the California, where this area is, where this legislation is being proposed, they're operating on seriously thin margins, and this is going to bankrupt people and push them right out of business. And well, I guess normal situation, normal. What else did we expect? Nothing was going to get better, right? So, and in the idea of idiocy, Captain Gringo, a good friend of the show, dropped this morning, and this is just absolute craziness. DC today, an officer in the Metro Police Department's 1st District dry fired an unloaded weapon at the head of another officer during a roll call meeting on Saturday afternoon, possibly under orders from a sergeant as part of a training exercise. 4 MPD sources tell this WUSA Channel 9. These sources say a sergeant later told officers in the room they had secretly ordered the officer to unload his weapon, then pretend to fire on his colleague as part of a training exercise on situational awareness. The officer then pulled the trigger of the unloaded weapon while pointing it at the head of the officer until it audibly clicked, the sources say. Both the officer who allegedly fired the weapon and the sergeant who allegedly ordered him are currently assigned to regular duties pending an internal affairs investigation, which means nothing will happen. I can tell you there are about 7 different versions of the incident that are out there. Chief Kathy Lanier told reporters on Monday. I'm not sure which or how many of those that you've heard, but I prefer to wait until I see some facts and have some direct statements of what happened before I make a judgment. So she needs to figure out which lie suits the department best. So that brings up aside from violating all sorts of, just destroying the 4 rules of gun safety. And I don't think that's really kind of situation that provides for camaraderie amongst coworkers. I would wonder how the guy who pulled the gun didn't get shot by other cops that were in the room if they were unaware of what was going on. Seems to be like real bad judgment all around, and these are the only guys that you can trust. There's a famous video, and it is of the DC police, and it's a cop who is giving a talk in front of a class, and he pulls out his pistol and tells everybody it's a Glock 40, and how he's the only one who in the classroom is qualified to operate such a deadly firearm, and proceeds to shoot himself right in the thigh. And he shakes it off pretty good. He doesn't go down or nothing. And then proceeds to try and grab a shotgun to demonstrate that, and the kids in the class start screaming, "No, please stop, no!" So that's who's in charge. That's who's running this place. That's the ones that are going to come and shoot your dog if you call them for help. So don't get a lot of respect for those guys. In the interest of people not shooting themselves in the thigh, or like the other story that I read today about the guy, and I swear to God, I think it was in Florida, shot himself in the head 3 times with a flare gun. Like one time wasn't enough, 3 times in the head with a flare gun. So yeah, that guy's in the hospital, but he violated the 4 rules of gun safety as well. So first rule is every firearm is loaded until you visually and physically inspect and verify that it is not loaded. Rule number 2 is keep that firearm pointed in a safe direction. Don't let the barrel cover anything you do not wish to destroy. Rule number 3 is know what your target is and know what is beyond your target at all times. And rule number 4 is keep the booger hook off the bang switch until you're ready to discharge the weapon. There should be a rule number 5. Do not hold people down and point unloaded guns and pull the trigger at their head. Yeah, that's just idiocy. Yeah, and they're cops, man. They're the ones who would shoot a kid with a BB gun in the park, and yeah, nothing's going to happen. A bunch of guys get vacation. That's absolutely wonderful. So I really wish Nick was here tonight. I could bounce stuff off him. We're in a changing world, and I really appreciate Nick's input. And he's got a slightly different view on, a radically different view on the way I view things. And I got to respect his view because he's been there and done that, and he can put together an argument that makes sense. So I wish he was here to like knock some common sense around on this show. But I don't know. I really don't like what's going on politically. The Hillary thing is, in my view, she's the one. She's already been chosen and anointed, and yeah, I mean she's having an affair with, or shouldn't say she's having an affair, because if you really like call out the Clintons bad, you end up dead. So I should just say that there's some very interesting emails that occur between her and the wife of Evelyn de Rothschild. So I mean, if she's got an intimate relationship with the wife of the richest guy in the world, I think it's fair to say that she's already the chosen one. I mean, Goldman Sachs doesn't donate to the loser. Anyhow, she's a proponent of Australian total draconian style gun buybacks and repossessions. I think we're kind of in a sweet spot, in a golden place, kind of the eye of the storm, maybe. I have a feeling that closer we get to November, the prices are going to rise. So you're out there. There's a bunch of interesting items out for sale right now. A couple good sales. 22 long rifle seems to be back pretty much, except for at Walmart. Walmart just I think Walmart gets blown out just because it is Walmart, and I think if there hadn't have been a rush, there really wouldn't be the same kind of craziness that's going on with the 22 long rifle. I mean, I think almost, I hate to sound elitist, but I think the Walmart shopper mentality really makes people buy shit they don't need, and guys that would normally not buy 8 boxes of 22 are now trying to get the last ones off the shelf just so somebody else won't get it. And I think it's going to take a long time and a lot more production and availability for that mindset to go away. But honestly, I don't think we got the time. I think once Hillary comes in, I think January of 2017 is going to be, there's heads are going to roll. She's going to come in and clean house, and her first stop is gun control. I mean, that's I I don't have a TV, so I listen to when I choose to gargle down some propaganda. I usually choose CNN because that flavor turns me on the most. I guess it's the closest that comes straight to the big nasty orifice of the government. So I guess it's the official, the word from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And I listened to the Hillary and Sanders debate the other night, and Hillary's such a goddamn opportunist. It's and drama queen. It's just not even funny. The question came back to firearms and especially the lawsuits. This seems to be a sticking point, whether or not they can push this lawsuit thing, and of course, the invocation of the Sandy Hook children and blah blah blah, common sense reform and yada yada yada, all that bullshit. Sanders, I guess, in his own way, sort of gave a half-hearted chuckle. I wouldn't even say it was a laugh. It wasn't even a chuckle. It was kind of a more of an expression of wonder at Hillary's previous statement. And she took upon that and seized on it and accused him of laughing and laughing on the graves of the children and blah, 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 just on. And it's just, yeah, she's evil. She's gonna take away the guns from everybody. Fear porn alert right now. Yeah, go ahead, go out and buy a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, I as my boy Iota says, got granola. Absolutely got granola. Yeah, buy granola, buy 22 long rifle, buy a bunch of French vanilla coffee creamer. I guess you should probably buy gold too. That's what they always say on TV. Yeah, I don't know. Kind of off the subject, I came across a very interesting website last couple of days that really has got me thinking, and it's got a very simple address. And I like to take a look at it for a couple minutes. I'm going to actually drop it in chat. I find it to be I don't want to say interesting because that's not necessarily giving it the import, but devastating information. And it's www.ifamericans.knew.org. So ifamericans.knew.org. And I'd like to take a look at that website for a second. It's got a lot of just, I mean, really intense information. It has a lot to do with the Israel and Palestine conflict, and really the amount of money that's being taken from the American people to pay for this. And my opinions on this subject are mixed. I've got I guess I could be called a shill for this, or non-sensitive, but I've got a real problem with a group of people calling themselves chosen and demanding tribute, and then turn around and using that tribute to oppress people, and basically that comes out of my name. And no matter what your belief is, and yeah, I know the good book says that they're the chosen ones, and that they're the only ones that God loves or whatever, but I don't necessarily believe that. I don't believe that anybody's any more chosen than me. If you really want to get into it, I believe I'm the chosen one. So and nobody gives me $10.2 million a day as per 2014. United States gives Israel $10.2 million a day in military aid every day. So since the October War in 1973, Washington has provided Israel with a level of support dwarfing the amounts provided to any other state. It has been the largest annual recipient of direct U.S. economic and military assistance since 1976, and the largest total recipient since World War II. Total direct U.S. aid to Israel amounts to well over $140 billion in 2003. Israel receives about $3 billion in direct foreign assistance each year, which is roughly 1/5 of America's entire foreign aid budget. Now, this is from a couple years ago. This is not current. Israel just recently turned down. They turned down an offer of $4.2 billion a year, demanding $5. I can't even begin to speak to the gall of saying that your donation to their defense is not enough. However, but that's another issue. So, getting back to this, in per capita terms, United States gives each Israeli directly a subsidy worth about $500 per year. This largesse is especially striking when one realizes that Israel is now a wealthy industrial state with a per capita income roughly to that of South Korea or Spain. And that's from John J. Mearsheimer and Stephen Walt, the Israeli lobby in U.S. foreign policy. $10.2 million per day in 2015. That's 70 plus million a week. And yeah, I realize exactly how the situation is. They turn around and they spend it in the United States. They buy bombs and guns from us. Blah blah blah. They get it for free and they use it to kill people. They use it to kill. They use it to blow up human shield factories. Think about that statement. Human shield factories. That's like pregnant women. Let's blow them up with some of Uncle Sam's dollars. Maybe we can do this right and get some of Uncle Sam's misguided children out there to go and die for this mess too, because $10.2 million a day isn't enough. I mean, for Christ's sakes, I mean, seriously, $70 million a week. What could you start to fix in this falling apart nation, in this nation of painted rust that we live in right now? What could you start fixing for $70 million a week? I mean, 52 weeks, 50 states. Let's fix something. Let's do something with that here. $70 million per state. Let's build skate parks in Wyoming. Let's fix some fucking potholes in Detroit. Let's fix Flint's water with that $70 million. That'd probably be a pretty good idea for Michigan's portion of that sudden windfall that we would get from not taking it in the ass from the Israelis on a regular basis. It's if Americans knew.org, I'd really like people to take a look at this website. I think I'll drop it in the chat again if I can. To me, it's devastating information. It's man, it's infuriating. I've seen my nation fall apart, and I was speaking with a friend of mine earlier, and our schools are a mess. Our education system is beyond failing. Kids aren't taught. They're not even taught to read cursive, to write in cursive. I mean, there's 13-year-old kids right now that don't know how to write in cursive, and who are supposedly doing well in school. When I first went to public high school, that was I guess the years that it started falling apart. My public high school had I came in as a sophomore, and there was no wood shop, there was no auto shop, there was no metal shop, there was no welding, there was no band program. The art program was very limited. We did have football. Football did not go unabated, neither did baseball or basketball. So at least since I was in high school, I can see the decline in the American educational system to where now, kids are almost at a level where they speak in hieroglyphics. And I'm not saying throwing money at this problem would solve it. and because I truly don't believe that throwing money at any problem actually solves it. Um, but man, we got to change our focus. And honestly, if we're given $70 million a week, our focus is in the wrong place. Um, I don't think Israeli interests and American interests line up. I think they're not on completely parallel paths. I think they're actually completely divergent. I I really hate that people say they're our only friend in the Middle East, and yeah, but before they were our only friend in the Middle East, we didn't have any enemies in the Middle East. So, I mean, I'm old enough to remember the gas crisis in the '70s and OPEC cutting us off because we dealt with Israel. We treated Israel in a completely unfair manner. And to be honest, it's like $70 million a week. Are we paying for the Holocaust? What did we do it? Why does my tax money have to go to it? I I did nothing wrong, and I shouldn't have to pay for this. I don't believe that they act in our interest, and maybe this is why my opinion is unpopular. We have 7 listeners, so I don't know. If AmericansNew.org, please give them a look and go ahead and spam their website to everybody. It's a very interesting organization, and I kind of believe in what they're saying. And especially in the light of news that's really, in my opinion, with an observation of the mainstream media news. Two incidences here rise up and strike me. The first is the public outcry over the 28 pages of the 9/11 report that Senator Bob Graham wants to have released. And then along with those 28 pages, there's the option to let people file lawsuits against Saudi Arabia if they are the subject of those 28 pages. And I found that to be distressing. I almost think that it's what's described as a limited hangout. No, I don't trust Bob Graham. I don't think he's got the interests of the American people at heart. I think he's acting within interests that are not parallel with the American people's. But this is no secret. I mean, we've known for a long time that 15 of the 19 hijackers were Saudi Arabian. We knew that there was all sorts of Saudi Arabian fingerprints all over it. We also know that there's all sorts of Israeli fingerprints all over it, along with American fingerprints and think tanks and foreign policy leaders that have got some problems with it. But Saudi Arabia came up with the threat that they were going to withhold or withdraw $780 billion of investment in the United States if the 28 pages were to be released and the lawsuits were allowed to proceed. And I don't know where you're from or how they do things where you are at, but where I'm from, that's considered a threat. And that's a threat of a magnitude. I'd say it's like pulling a gun on the United States. Taking $780 billion out of the market in one fell swoop would probably be the death knell for the dollar. That probably wouldn't be where the Saudi Arabians like to stop. If this was to happen, I could see some sort of resurgence of the OPEC embargo from the '70s, or some sort of outrageous price hike or something like that. Let us know who's in charge for reals. This would also expose the Israelis to a whole lot, because then the questions about the dancing Israelis come out, and Israel's current involvement with Saudi Arabia, which is unsavory to say the least. But then you have to juxtapose this the complete lack of coverage of this issue, which is honestly this truly amounts to a threat to the national security, far greater than any ISIS crap that's going on. This is something that happens and could affect us here, and very, very, very little coverage of that in the media. Versus yesterday, there was an explosion on a bus in Israel, an explosion on an empty bus in Israel, and on CNN, that explosion for the empty bus in Israel got more than 24 hours coverage, and it was covered basically in every hour. And where I would say that the threat with Saudi Arabia was covered maybe 4 times in 24 hours. That bus bombing or bus explosion, whatever it was covered far more often. There was no dead people or nothing. And honestly, it doesn't affect Americans. It has not a fucking thing to do with anybody in the United States. Jesus H. Christ, it's a bus that blew up half a world away in a completely different time zone. It has nothing to do with us, and it's like top of the hour news on CNN. And the Saudi Arabians are basically, put a knife in our belly and they're telling us what to do. And no, man. Yeah. IfAmericans.org. IfAmericans.org. Please go and visit. Wake up. Share that with people. That's some real devastating information. You're being robbed, and the people who are robbing you also control the fate of your nation. So I guess that's my little rant on that. Just the idiocy of that the amount of coverage, the disparity in the amount of coverage between a serious threat on the United States and the financial well-being of this country, and a credible threat. It's not like they haven't made this threat before or played any kind of money games before with us. And an empty bus blows up, and that's what the American people got to be concerned with. Who runs you? Who owns this place? When do people start asking questions why that takes precedence over this? Why do we have to are we going to start allowing the people to sue the car companies now because a drunk driver used the Ford or the Chevy and smashed into somebody? Same thing with the firearms. I mean, this whole thing is upside down, topsy-turvy, and yeah, doesn't matter who you vote for, Hillary's got it. So yay for Trump, yay for Sanders. Cruz, you're just a creepy motherfucker. In case that you're from Ohio, and all states with less than 5 letters in the name should actually be counties. So I don't know. Best wishes to my brother on his cleaning and painting and adventure and getting yelled at. I don't know. I wish he was here so I could bounce stuff off. I wish I had the ability to take calls. Yeah, I'm very, very frightened for the future of firearms, and beyond that, I'm frightened for the future of our nation. There's too many people who just don't care, who are entranced and enchanted by the dumbing down tools, the just the idiocy of television, of reality television, of the nonstop news. And I guess I'm guilty of playing into the media trap of enjoying and gorging yourself on the 24-hour news cycle, nonstop at your fingertips, infotainment. It's powerful stuff, and its greatest power, I think, is to just absolutely flat out lie to you and make you think you're getting the best deal around. That you are the freest. You have the most freedom, and they hate you because you have all that freedom. Now, don't let the cop who trains by pulling an empty gun on his fellow cop's head come out there and shoot your dog and beat up your kid when you call the cops. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not happy. I guess let's get back onto like gun subjects again. Earlier today in the Dallas area, there was another attempted break-in on a gun store. Early this morning in the northeast Dallas area, in the I would say that would be the Garland area. There was a break-in, an attempted break-in at B&S Guns on Ferguson Boulevard. Follows a path that we've seen in a few recent gun store robberies. A couple of perpetrators in a car in a large truck about 3:30 in the morning. They tried to smash it through the front of the store. This store was in a different location and was differently prepared. The truck was not able to get through. It got hung up on some concrete things, was not able to actually penetrate into the building. And they had 24-hour security that came off and scared them off. They ran, and guess they robbed a guy about 3 blocks away, and the cops caught one of them, and 2 more are out, and they're looking for him. So it doesn't matter how it is, the criminal will get the gun, and the law-abiding citizen will end up taking the brunt of the legislation to stop that. Of course, the truck they used to smash into the building was stolen. So, I mean, there's multiple crimes to commit other crimes. It's compound criminality, and really don't want to look at the math, because the equation is our system. Well, the equation shows that our system is absolutely corrupt, and a lot of people talking really, really big about the gun violence. The same people who do not want to recognize that the same exact violence, the very violence that they speak of, is a result of the drug war that they are completely asinine backwards about. I dare say that a large percentage of the inner city crime that we hear about on a regular basis out of the big four, which would be like Chicago, Detroit, Atlanta, or I should say Chicago, Detroit, Baltimore, and New Orleans. I think those are the ones that are leading the United States in violence right now. I would dare say that a good 70% of the violent crime that happens there, whether it's with a firearm or not, is directly related to the drug war and the insanity of how the drug war is prosecuted, money is spent, and how people are treated. And honestly, the insurance people, because every job that's worth a damn, you have to pee in a cup for. If you want to make more than $10 an hour, you got to pee in a cup. And if you smoke pot, you don't get to pee in a cup. Well, I guess you can pee in a cup. It's just not going to be any good, right? So now you're restricted to making shit money because you smoked a plant. This causes consternation and disapproval amongst the urban youths of today, and will cause the violence you see in pursuit of that cheddar. So, yeah, I think it's you are being played, America, and there ain't no other way to say it. Sometimes the show seems really fast when Nick is here, and then when I got to do it by myself, this is the longest hour on the face of the earth. I think the only hour that was long was like getting yelled at when I was a kid or something like that. Church was pretty long, I think. Yeah, church was a pretty long hour as well. Looking around at firearms for my own personal choices, there's nothing new out there that's grabbing me. everything is just some sort of rehash, different finish, new grips added on rail, accessory rail, attachment points, integrated laser or something like that. That really doesn't change the function of the firearm. There's nothing out there that's really grabbing me. The only thing that's out there that I kind of want to get my hands on is that Polymer 80 is the company, and make an 80% Glock frame. And so you'd have to get this frame and drill out or mill out, however you're going to remove material, enough to where you could like start inserting it and build your own Glock basically. And you can actually build a Glock that has no Glock parts in it, except for the locking block. I think you have to buy the locking block from Glock. There's no aftermarket manufacturer of that. But you don't necessarily save a whole lot of money going that route, but you become intimately familiar with the pistol as you have built it from a pile of polymer. I really kind of like to get on one of those. I don't think I'm going to be able to anytime soon, though. I got a bunch of stuff going on here. That's probably not. I got other projects I got to finish before I start that one. But that's one of the things that kind of grabbed my eye. For me, any further, I just want more ammunition and magazines. I know I made a comment about like trying to maybe get into 5.56 223, and I don't even think I'm going to do that. There's nothing out there that grabs me. There's nothing that says I got to have that. And if time comes that I got to have that, there are probably going to be a whole bunch of them things lying around. So I don't necessarily need to spend the money on those right now. I don't enjoy shooting the 5.56. I think it's an incredibly loud cartridge for such a small little pipsqueak round. Yeah, it moves fast and all, but I just don't. I don't have the time to shoot that or the gumption to shoot it anymore. It's just, it doesn't call me. I'd much rather shoot handguns all day, shotguns. Did try to get a hold of the shotgun we spoke about last week, the LR10, out of it's a Turkish shotgun that was being restricted in Australia. Got a little bit of a look at the company's webpage for that. Really not meant for United States consumers. It's in kind of in broken English. It's really not a well-made website and gives very, very little information about the firearm. Don't see it being brought into the United States at any point. So that's a one-off for Australia, which will, of course, not be permitted. So, dance around for 6 minutes. Gotta kill it. Yeah, I don't know. Like the Sandy Hook thing has really kind of got my goat twisted. The lawyers are perverting and manipulating and ruining the system for their own gain, for the gain of people who pay them. They're like mercenaries. The attorneys for this that are advocating for the families should be strung up. The judge should be strung up. This is just, I mean, it's not how our system works. And they're trying to affect change through the legislation, and I think it's patently disgusting. Patently disgusting. See what else I can come up with here for the last couple minutes. In my area, private sales of firearms have gone through the roof. Prices are in just pure insanity right now. And I don't know if that's got to do with the current situation in the nation and the lack of an online venue. That I really think the elimination of the Facebook marketplace for firearms caused a spike in the price of the secondary market, and I think a significant price jump. I was finding on Facebook, you could find, if you were looking, you could find a firearm that was very, very near appropriately priced or under at times. There were some good deals. Now there are absolutely no good deals online near me. Everybody knows that it's a gun, and those three letters mean, those three letters are zeros to be tacked onto the end of the number of it. One of the more outrageous pricings I saw was for an older pistol. It's a Ruger P85. It's a very sturdy design. It's reliable as all. I don't think there's any other pistol out there that's got a reliability record like a P85. A very stout, well-built, robust pistol. It is an older design, and it is very large. It's quite large for its size and its caliber, and they made lots of them. I can't give you a figure on them. I would dare say it's in the millions, and thus it's not a very expensive pistol. I'm not calling it cheap by any means, but it's not necessarily a bank breaker. Usually they come in around less than $350 on the secondary market, and that's for one that's in pristine condition. I saw one the other day. It was a P85 that had not been modified, and modification has to do with a problem they had with the decocker, and those went back and they fixed them and they were fine. It had not gone back for that modification. The guy was touting that as one of its features due to its rare condition, which I believe was eclipsed by the pitting that was all over the firearm from the probably years of rust that had just been recently cleaned off so we could sell this firearm. The best part about this was that it came with two 10-round magazines that are the old school. It was a two-piece magazine, shortened magazine body that had like a solid plastic block underneath it that there was no way you could alter the magazine to make it into a higher capacity magazine. He had two of those, and he was asking an even $500 for it. And that is just, in my book, that's outrageous. I don't think it would ever sell before, but I don't think it'll sell now. Give it a couple months and it might sell at that price when the rush is back on. If you don't remember the post Sandy Hook rush in early 2013, late 2012, yeah, everything became virtually unexistent and unobtainable. We saw where a lot of companies stood after that. One of the companies I love to bash most, Cheaper Than Dirt, really showed that they are just cheap as scum is really what they are. They kind of like took it and stuck it to the people. So I think we got a little bit of that to anticipate coming too. I think with the elections are not going to be good, and buy the stuff while you can. It's cheap. Man, that was almost a rough hour. I'd like to say thank you to Jules for UCY. UCY is an amazing gift. It's a platform that, I mean, hell, man, I talked about Israel for like 20 minutes tonight. There is no other place you can talk about Israel. I mean, yeah, I gave out a website, ifamericansknew.org, that doesn't say happy things about Israel in the tax situation. I'm allowed to say that, and even better, I'm allowed to say without commercials. So I'd really like to thank Jules. I think she got a seriously huge set of balls on her. But that takes guts. Everybody, thank you very much.